Hello, and welcome to the Daily Space for today, Tuesday, June 9th, 2020. I am your host, Annie Wilson. Most Mondays through Fridays, our team will be here putting science into your brain. Usually Wednesdays are for Rocket Roundup, and this is definitely not a Wednesday. Today is Tuesday. I repeat, today is Tuesday. We are bringing you Rocket Roundup a day early so the CosmoQuest team can go dark on Twitch tomorrow in solidarity with Strike for Black Lives. Anyway, it's been a real light week of rocket launches, so yeah, let's get to it. Let's get to it. As I totally pushed the wrong button. On Thursday, June 4th at 1:25 a.m. UTC, SpaceX launched yet another batch of 60 Starlink satellites on board a Falcon 9 from Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. This marks the 7th batch of version 1.0 Starlink. Notable about this batch is the fact that one of the satellites is testing a sun visor that should make the satellite significantly less visible by blocking sunlight from hitting the brightest parts of the starcraft. If successful, this could be a standard feature on future Starlink satellites, which would help make them less of a nuisance to astronomers and astrophotographers. Warning, rocket launches are loud.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
And there's that call out that Falcon 9 is in startup.
Go for launch.
And at T-minus 45 seconds, there was that call out for go for launch. Again, that was the Falcon 9 rocket making that decision autonomously. Now we are T-minus 30 seconds from liftoff of our Starlink payload tonight. So let's listen in and watch liftoff.
T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff!
Falcon 9 pitching down range.
We are T plus 40 seconds into flight, and Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Pad 40 at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, carrying our Starlink payload to its targeted drop-off orbit. Moments ago, we did throttle down our engines in preparation for max Q, and that is the maximum aerodynamic pressure, which is the largest structural load that the vehicle will see. That's coming up here in a few seconds.
Max Q.
And there's that call out that we have just passed through max Q. In about a minute, we will have 3 events happening back to back. The first of which will be main engine cutoff, or MECO. This is where all 9 M1D engines shut off to slow the vehicle down in preparation for the second event, which is stage separation. Stage separation is where the first stage separates from the second stage, with the first stage starting to make its way back to Earth for landing, and stage 2 continuing on its journey, with the third event called SES-1, or Second Engine Start 1. And that's where the MVAC engine lights up on the second stage and propels the second stage along with the Starlink satellites to its drop-off orbit. We are at T plus 2 minutes and 5 seconds.
All right. Another notable thing about this launch is the fact that the video link for the barge did not drop out just before landing like every other time a booster has landed on the barge. Check this out.
Visual confirmation that those engines have reignited.
The vehicle continues to follow a nominal trajectory.
And stage 1 entry burn shut down.
And confirmation that the stage 1 entry burn is complete, as well as stage 2 still looking nominal. If you heard that call out.
So you lost the downlink there. Here's the barge. Wait for it.
Coming up next is the landing burn around T plus 8.5 minutes. Around 8 minutes and 24 seconds. Looks like we lost that live view of the first stage coming down, but that is expected. So hopefully we can get that live view back. Right now,
Stage 1 is transonic.
Right now what you're seeing on your left screen is the drone ship Just Read the Instructions. Followed very closely after the landing burn and landing of the first stage will be SECO 1, that is second engine cutoff, around T plus 8 minutes and 58 seconds.
Stage 1 landing burn is started.
Terminal guidance.
I know, it's a long wait. I'm sorry.
Landing legs
But
have deployed.
Look how
Stage
bright
2
it gets.
FTS has saved.
And wow, as you saw coming
And
down,
GRTI, we
that
have a
first
stage 1
stage
landed.
Falcon 9.
Landing operators moving to procedure 11.100 on recovery 1 and DCF 9.
Amazing, that first stage booster has landed for the first time, for the 5th time for a Falcon 9 booster. That is amazing. We're waiting for second stage engine cutoff. What an amazing view of that first stage coming down, even though it was dark and night. But those engines lighting up the screen, watching first stage come down, was an amazing view. And we heard a call out of good orbit for second stage.
Acquisition of signal, Newfoundland.
And now that second stage is going to,
All right. So this was the 89th Falcon 9 launch overall. And this particular first stage is the first Block 5 Falcon 9 to make 5 successful landings. And it is also the first to land on Just Read the Instructions drone ship since it was moved back to the East Coast. For those of you keeping track at home, neither Ms. Tree nor Ms. Chief made a successful fairing catch. Both fairings were recovered from the water, with the one that Ms. Tree carried back to shore broken into 2 pieces. To wrap things up, here's a running tally of a few spaceflight statistics for the current year. There are 4 toilets currently in space. We've burned up 2 toilets in the atmosphere. There are, since the beginning of the year, 474 satellites placed into orbit by humans. 458 of those have been launched directly from satellites. No, launched directly from rockets. Apologies. So far this year, there have been 40 launch attempts, including 5 failures. I keep track of orbital launches by where they launched from. Here's that breakdown. USA 14, China 12, Kazakhstan 4, Russia 3, French Guiana 2, Japan 2, Iran 2, New Zealand 1. And your useless space fact for the week is that Buzz Aldrin's mother's maiden name was Moon. And that is our show for today. Thank you all for listening. I've been your host, Annie Wilson. Today's script was written and edited by Gordon Dewis, Allie Pelfrey, and myself. Our web content will be produced by Beth Johnson. Our executive producer is Dr. Pamela Gay. This has been a production of the Planetary Science Institute, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to exploring our solar system and beyond. We are here thanks to the generous contributions of people like you. Want to become a supporter of the show? Check us out at patreon.com/CosmoQuestX. But it is plague times. Do not worry about supporting us. We will be fine. Take care of yourselves so you can just come be with us. To us, that's more important. All right. So I'm going to go and scroll back and read your questions. Oh, thank you for the bid, Smithtown. Thank you. Oh no. I may have attracted dogs. I don't know where the Cheerios are. Oh, here are the Cheerios. Okay, so let's do a pop-up. Come here. All right, you ready? Oh, I don't have a dog cam, so the best I can do... Oh, sit up, you can do it. The best I can do is kind of put the dog on cam. Yeah, you know what this is, huh? I did say thank you in that voice. I did. So this is Puck, and here are the Cheerios. Oh no, the other dog heard. So we'll get Puck to eat Cheerios right out of my palm. And we'll sprinkle some Cheerios for Tinker. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Crunch, crunch. Yeah? You want more? Can you crunch, crunch for them more? They really enjoy this for whatever reason. Commander Vicky says, a puppy. Yes, Commander Vicky, this is Puck. He is a American Eskimo. All right, one more. He is half blind. So he needs a little extra help. All right, bud. I'm going to put you down now, okay? Or actually, do you just want to sit in my lap? You can sit in my lap. All right, so let's look for these questions. Because I saw some questions. I totally did see some questions. If you have additional questions, please use the purple star. Okay, so I think we're all the way back at the beginning. That's the good thing about a short episode, is that I don't have to look. I don't have to look too far back. Allie's like, thank you! And yes, doing this live, like reading my own script and pressing next on the slides and making sure the things are where they need to be is tricky. It's really tricky. It's really tricky. And yes, as DPI puts it, one Starlink has a parasol. It is a fancy Starlink. Squish Chin says, I'm glad they address the reflectivity issues so that satellites don't affect... I don't know what you got on, dog. Don't affect ground astronomy as much. Yeah. And then Hanny's Vorwarp asks, why don't they try multiple different types at once? Multiple different types of darkening solutions. Other than cost, I think the best explanation, excuse me, I think the best explanation is that they are doing an experiment, right? And when you do an experiment, you have a control, something you don't change, and then, you know, the experimental thing, the thing that has the variable, the thing you change. So they are using, rather than do half and half because cost, they're choosing the rest of the Starlinks as the control and the one that they make a change to as the, you know, variable that they're changing. So that's my theory as to why only one aside from cost. DPI makes a snide comment about how they only come up with one great idea per launch. So, yeah. DPI adds that Dark Star, that's the one that they painted black, literally, was less bright by 1.4 magnitudes, if he recalls correctly. So if the umbrella link, that is probably not what it's called, is really even less bright, it should be well noticeable. And yes, broken symmetry, I agree. Sending more than one would be good for more data in case of more accidents or failures, but I don't know. I don't know. All right, can I put you down? No? Do you have thoughts on the Starlink launch? No? Okay, I'm gonna put you down now. All right. Ooh. Ugh. Successful unbirthing of the dog. Okay. So, null denominator asks, maybe they're using the Starlink satellites to maintain the video feed link. Wouldn't that be fitting? That was actually my hypothesis too. We don't know. I don't know. They didn't release that information. All they said was, hey, we didn't lose it this time. So I haven't poked at it too much to see if... I'm so sorry if you can hear that. Hey. My dogs like to dig and nest. Anyways, so they didn't... I haven't looked to see if that was announced anywhere or anything of that nature, but I would not be surprised if they use Starlink to do that. So, I think DPI was saying, yeah, I wonder how they are going to deal with the following launches. I guess they'll be RTLS. I don't know what that means, so they'll have to shuffle barges? I really don't know. Yeah. Midtown says, only the second time I think the feed hasn't cut out, at least that I recall. I think it might be, it is, usually the feed does cut out, but I really don't know if it's wrong, that you can take up with Keeper of Maps. So, are there enough names in the book for that? I don't know. And yeah, that fairing did not fare well. In fact, Ms. Tree, which it's probably not an official account, but the Ms. Tree Twitter account tweeted out that they caught 2 out of the 3 fairing halves, which broke my brain for a bit. Or that they had 2 out of the 3 fairing halves, which broke my brain. I suspect the fairing half broke on impact with the water. So, yeah, we need commands for Allie and Beth. So, they should be testing the capsule toilet in situ, says Broken Symmetry. They have tested the capsule toilet. They say it operates like the shuttle toilet did. That doesn't mean that it looks like the shuttle toilet. The shuttle toilet was like its whole own cabin. And the worst part about it is that it was right next to like where the crew ate. So, yeah. Yeah, Annie's new exercise is pop-ups. Squish Chin says, I wonder when we will next send dogs to space, this time along humans, not for experiments, but for companionship. Squish Chin adds, I think there have been 5 dogs in space before. I don't know. I don't know if that'll be a thing. They do need to, there's a lot of training that has to be done, as Astrowise points out. Because they need exercise, they need to be fed, watered, and they have to be able to eliminate waste. And I think this is why all of the dogs that Russia put up were female, because it was easier to create a device to remove waste. So, yeah. right now they have like plants on the space station. And there's plants in the space station and plants at the Antarctica research site. And those have been found to help with mental health, just having the plants. It's also kind of a diet thing, but it's really, really hard to grow enough calories to feed a whole bunch of people. So it's more of a supplement. Plus, it's apparently great for your mental health. So to just go into this green, I know in the Antarctic place, you just go into this like green space. And the ISS, they don't have as many plants as they do in the Antarctica research site, but they have some plants. So Squishin says, I want the Starlink trains to be visible just after sunset before sunrise. Well, they're still close to each other for only a few days after launch, just because that's spectacular and will get people's attention. After a few days, they go into higher orbits and spread out. I want them to be as close to invisible as possible in the nighttime sky. So the way that another way that's being handled, the visibility issue is being handled, is how the satellites are being oriented while they're raising their orbits. And it was kind of complicated. So let me see if I can figure out. Nope. I don't think it'll let me do that. So let me try to pull up, I should say, a SpaceX.com, pull up the website. Because there's this whole link about it. So here's the link that I'm going to pull up. And let me just make sure I have this set proper, because of course I don't. Nope. Yes. Properties. Nope. Yes. So here is, come on, you can do it. It doesn't, there we go. So here is the website, the SpaceX website. And oh, thank you for the follow, Mobius. And this was released late April. And there's a whole lot of words here that I'm not going to go over, but I'm going to mention there's 3 phases of flight: orbit, raise, parking orbit, and on station. And here is kind of the thing. So on station, brightness is driven by antennas, since the satellite is in the shark fin configuration during sunrise and sunset. During orbit rise, brightness is driven by open book configuration for thrusting and drag, and sunlight reflects off of both the antenna and array. So they are visible at sunrise and sunset from the ground. And they talk about rolling the satellite knife edge to the sun to minimize light reflection to Earth. But I don't know if that's a long-term solution. I really don't know if that's a long-term solution. So they have the early orbit, rise and parking orbit roll maneuver. And yeah, there's a whole lot of words here that it's just, I couldn't understand all of it. And essentially the best I can do is explain that they're talking about moving the satellite in such a way so that reflections aren't as obvious, so it's not as bright. but I did link the article in chat if you want to read. It's a whole lot of words. Sneaky Walrus asked, do you upload VODs anywhere? Or just on the Twitch channel? We archive pretty much everything to YouTube. Allie's going to trim this up and make it look nicer-ish. We have to hold Twitch content solely on Twitch. I think it's for 24 hours before we can release it on YouTube. But it will be on YouTube. So it will be on YouTube. It is very satisfying to grow things astro-wise. Use space dogs to fetch old satellites. I mean, I wish. Hanny's asked, can they have houseplants, or do the plants have to earn their keep? I think at one point there were houseplants, because I do remember seeing the botanical gardens in Pittsburgh, Phipps, I think it's Phipps, had a whole bunch of signage inside saying, you know, these houseplants have been shown to improve air quality, and it was tested on the International Space Station. But the best thing, I think they do have to, I think it is best for them to earn their keep. So, Squish Chin asks, when the Starlinks rise to their final orbits, how fast past the Terminator are they illuminated by the sun? Yeah, Arinstro is the one that would have that answer, and he says 90 minutes, give or take. So, yeah. So Starlink orbit much higher than the ISS? I don't remember. I know they've been photographed by the ISS. So, yeah. DPI adds about plants. I don't think they necessarily need to be edible. Other science might be possible as well, but I doubt they have enough space for non-sciencey payloads on the ISS. Okay, so yes, eventually when Starlink is in final operational orbit, it'll be at 550 kilometers above Earth, and the ISS is about 400. So Armstrong says that the orbits are fairly similar in altitude. So yeah, and there are a couple different orbit altitudes for the Starlinks. There are. So yeah. Armstrong says, okay, my fairly similar is different from DPI. It happens. They do have, the long-term plan is for them to have Starlinks in orbits that are way higher, but I think it's easier to deploy to these lower orbits first, and that's really the first shell they want to complete. So a good chunk of the satellites that have been launched this year have been Starlinks. Oh, they're moving away from those higher orbits. Look at that. Look at that. Yeah. 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 Again, I am not a satellite expert. Dave Arnstro is, and I am so glad he's here in chat today because, oh my goodness. All right. Any other questions for either of us? Oh, yeah. That would make sense. Dave says they're really moving away from those higher altitude ones because they're much harder to ensure they deorbit on reasonable timescales. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And yes, it makes sense that Dave would have gotten the memo before the rest of us. Because it was probably literally a memo. Anything else? Because this was pretty short today. I hope I answered a good number of your questions. I know I don't always understand everything. I try my best to explain it because if I don't understand it, there's no way that I'm going to be able to explain it to you guys. So I do lean very heavily on Dave for that. Are these satellites ready for the coming solar maximum? That is totally a Dave question. So we'll wait to see what Dave says. Because I know next to nothing about shielding and such. Hello, Kivrov. You are, you missed all the news. I don't know. Does Dave have the answer to that question? It's okay, Kivrov. There's always video on demand. There's always video on demand. Yeah, or the podcast. Because guess what? The podcast was recorded yesterday, so it should go out much earlier. Dave has an answer for Is Dunlop, hopefully, but they shouldn't need much more than the average sat is designed with. So there you go. AstroWise adds that solar activity has been slow the last couple of years, not many sunspots. Which is kind of good, kind of boring if you do solar observation, but good if you're worried about the after effects of flares and whatnot and solar storms. Squish Chin says, well, if it takes ISS 90 minutes to do one orbit, then it takes Starlink about 95 to 100 minutes to orbit. I was asking how many degrees past longitude past the terminator would they be visible in the sky directly over after they've gone into their higher orbits? I don't know. A satellite tracker might be better for that, so let's do Starlink. Satellite tracker. And is this the website I'm thinking of? It is kind of the website I'm thinking of. So Dave adds, the real issue is that 100 kilometers further up doesn't really change that much from the ground's perspective. Correct, because guess what? If you go to other planets and you look at the stars, it's going to look pretty similar to your backyard because they are so far away. So, find visible times. These are not accurate. The newest Starlink isn't available or isn't visible in my current location within the next 5 days. So, let's see. The oldest I see is 5. And this website will have like elevation from the horizon. I'll share this link as well. But yeah, this is where you can literally just find, when you can see a Starlink train. So that was yesterday. That was yesterday. And the next time that these are both way earlier before I get up. And these are all with poor visibility. So I don't have any good visibility within the next couple ones. Armstrong says a Starlink paralleling the Terminator would easily be visible for its full track across the local sky, whereas one at 90 degrees to the Terminator will vanish in seconds to a couple minutes. Solar activity should increase over the next 4 to 5 years, given an 11-year solar cycle. We're at the end of cycle 24. Yeah. And he says, that's good naming. You get what you came for. I know, right? Okay, so Squish Chin is getting into some real specifics about visibility, and how visible they are in the nighttime sky is not something I want to poke at with a stick, because it is cool to see a Starlink train. But it does ruin data. and most of the 400, nearly 500 satellites we've put up this year have been Starlinks. So yeah. Yeah. And the whole brightness issue is the ultimate goal, as Dave says, that's the ultimate goal of efforts like VisorSat, et cetera, et cetera. So Adam Altogether says, how long till we get an avoid Starlink app? I mean, I guess you could use the websites for tracking them and just be like, okay, this is when they're here. This is when you can avoid them. Hanny says, we'll see how many complaints come in. It's complicated. Starlink is complicated. Anyway. I also good news, all 5 Starlinks have deorbited, whether controlled or otherwise. So that feature seems to work well so far. Yes. This is why why I'm trying to change the language in this is how many new satellites are up there to this is how many satellites we've launched this year, because you lose satellites. You do. And I probably am missing a few satellites because CubeSats are small and sometimes they're launched from the ISS and I miss it. So, yeah. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here because I do have other work to do. Did I catch one of those? No, I don't think the debris made it all the way to ground. I think it literally burned up in the atmosphere. So, yeah. Yeah, the failure rate is actually really good. And as AstroWise points out, if you think keeping track of space toilets is hard, try to keep track of satellites. Oh my goodness, I have thought about including the number of things that have deorbited, but that's just no. There's a lot that comes down, and it's way easier just to keep track of the things we put up. It really is. So, it really is. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you all so much again for tuning in and watching and all of your support. Would an outhouse in space be a satellite toilet? Sure. Actually, the logo for the US toilet on the ISS has an outhouse as part of its logo. So, yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in. I will see you all the next time I see you. Again, we're not going to be broadcasting anything tomorrow, so yeah. Come hang out with us in Discord. We archive everything on YouTube. Again, this has been a production of PSI. It's Planetary Science Institute. Cheerios for the dogs. Hi, come here, real quick. Come here. He's like, I don't know. Here, he's not sure, so I just put Cheerios on the floor. Thank you for the bits. This has been a production of PSI, Planetary Science Institute, 501c3 nonprofit corporation dedicated to exploring our solar system and beyond. Yeah. Everyone, stay safe, wash your hands, be well, do good, and wherever you are in the world, have a wonderful insert time of day here, and I will see you all hopefully soon. And yeah. Bye, everybody. Credits awkwardly.